Here are two children who are in the same family. They are each asked what restaurant they would like to eat at for dinner. One child wants hot dogs for dinner. One child wants pizza. They begin to fight because they can't agree on what they want. Issues are ideas that people believe in strongly. Sometimes people can argue over issues. The parents of these children will have to decide what to do to keep both children happy. It is the job of parents to maintain order in a house so that the needs of everyone are met in a safe manner. There are several different ways the parents may decide to help the children solve the dilemma of where to go for dinner without fighting. Some parents make the decision for the kids. Some parents may sit down and talk to the children in order to help them reach a compromise. A country or a nation is very much like a family. Instead of parents, a country has a government that helps keep order in a country so that the needs of the country's citizens are met in a safe manner. There are many forms of government. Government refers to the way a country or nation has structured the means of how rules and laws are made and enforced for the people in that country. Politics is the study of how people believe they should be governed. People living in the same country can feel very different about how they think the government should run. When a country has to decide what to do to keep people living in their country happy, it can be hard. The issues citizens argue about are much more complex than what to eat for dinner. Sometimes citizens in the same country get so upset with each other over political issues it can lead to fighting and even war. When citizens in the same country end up fighting in a war among themselves, it is called a civil war. Even in America, we have had a war where we were fighting each other. It was called the American Civil War. It was also known as the War between the States, the Brothers' War, the War of Northern Aggression, and the War to End Slavery. Among the many political issues at stake were sectionalism, states' rights, Westward Expansion, and slavery. People moved from one place to another in hopes of making their lives better. Before the Civil War started, President Jefferson had purchased land in the West. People began to move to the western part of the country in order to make their lives better. As people moved out west, one of the big questions was whether or not they could take their slaves to the new lands. Some of the American citizens felt that the new lands should not have slavery. Some Americans felt their slaves belonged to them and therefore could be taken anywhere. Western expansion was a primary issue. Sectionalism was another issue. We all understand that in a school building there are different grades. In an elementary school there may be kindergarten, first grade, second grade, third grade, fourth grade, and fifth grade. Each grade is a section within the same school. Imagine how you would feel if the principal said that only some sections or grades were to receive ice cream one day. If your section was the one to get the treat, you'd be okay. But if another grade level received the treat, you would be very angry. In the days before the Civil War, the nation started breaking into different areas or sections. There was the North, the South, and the West. This was the reason for the sectionalism in the country. The treat people were fighting over wasn't ice cream, it was power. Power was based on how big the population was in an area. More people lived up north than in the south, so the north had more power. People were also moving west, so the west was gaining in power. Because they thought they were losing power, the South began to get more and more upset. A third political issue concerned states' rights. In the South, people felt that the state government should be more powerful than the federal government, and so whatever the law was in the state was more important than the law of the country. For example, imagine if the national government said it was okay to drive 80 miles an hour, and in the state of Virginia you could only drive 60 miles an hour. If you felt that the state was more powerful than the national government, you would uphold the law that says you could drive 60 miles an hour. There were some people that believed the federal government should be more powerful than the state government, and so the laws that the national or federal government made were more important than the laws of the state. If the national government said you could drive 80 miles an hour, the police in Virginia could not give you a ticket if you were driving the federal speed limit, even if the speed limit in Virginia was 60. States' rights or federal rights is an argument people still are having today. The final issue people were talking about prior to the Civil War concerned slavery. Up north, many people were calling for the end or the abolishment of slavery. In the South, farmers needed the slaves to work the farms. The farmers down south didn't think they could afford to pay the blacks, so they wanted to keep them as free labor. People up north were seeing slavery as a moral issue. They just flat out believed it was wrong to own slaves. Slavery was a very hot topic of debate between the northern citizens and the southern citizens.